Hey everybody,
Hey.
how's it going? Episode 40 here with Nevermind Podcast, and as you can see as our background, we got Musty as our special guest.
Yeah, welcome in. You're
Hello.
right dead center for us.
Good to be back.
It's always great to have you back.
Are you feeling better?
I am much
Good.
better. Thank you.
Good.
That's great.
Why am I in the
don't
middle?
actually
Okay, sorry, I've just noticed where I am. You're in my living room. Get out now.
Yeah, we're sitting on your table right now.
We just took a quick flight.
Yeah, I thought it'd be hilarious to just throw you right on the background, the green screen.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I wish I'd removed the Pepsi Max bottles from the background, but it's fine. We'll roll with it.
We can put something there if you want. We can just
No,
do
it's
a
fine. I don't
graphic.
give a shit.
I just have to sit up a little bit.
I don't care.
There you go. Yeah, I got the blue Snuggie on the chair, so I can.
Oh, so you can block out the chair. Oh, nicely done. Special effects. It's like a Star Wars movie.
Yeah. George Lucas ain't got nothing on me.
Yeah, well.
So, a couple things right off the bat. We're going to be talking about the Article 13 that happened, and we're going to also go over the shootings at the mosques in New Zealand.
So some really light-hearted, happy stuff, yeah?
Yeah, so I figured we'll start off with a little bit of light-hearted, happy stuff.
Cool.
Julie was dared at her work to eat crickets on the stream.
They're green
Yep.
screened out.
Oh, they're green screened out. That's crazy. Well, anyways, there's these little baggies of crispy crickets. We got bacon and cheese and sour cream and onion.
I'm more disturbed by the flavours than I am.
Yeah.
I won't. I can't eat it. I'm gonna seriously puke on camera if I do.
I'm gonna have one of each. Just get it done and
Which
over
one?
with.
Which one is this?
This is the sour cream and onion.
Sour cream and onion.
Got to get the nose on it, so you got to get the smell. How does it smell?
So-
Does it smell like bacon and cheese?
No, it smells more like peanuts. I don't know if you can see that or not.
I mean, I have eaten
do a
cricket.
close-up.
Before.
Here you go. You
They're
guys.
definitely crunchy.
Wow.
Kind of hard to see that.
That was like flavorless, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
You're trying to talk me into it. I'm not gonna do
They-
it.
Literally, they don't. I've had crickets before. They taste of nothing. It's just like a shell. You're eating the shell of something, obviously.
Yeah. And here's bacon and cheese just to get it done and over with. I don't know if you guys can see that or not.
What you should do is you should get some. See if you can get a hold of some water beetles. Try that next time.
That one was just the same.
And you're going for the water now because they're disgusting.
Yeah, just to get the bits out of my mouth.
Yeah, we had a.
The legs.
We have a very fancy store in the UK where you could get. They had an exotic food aisle, and I bought barbecue flavored crickets. I bought a tequila worm lollipop, and I bought a can of rattlesnake.
Oh yeah.
Glorious.
The next thing that this was originally as a joke to one of my coworkers. One of my coworkers bought them for another coworker of mine because she freaks out at anything that's creepy crawly at all.
Yeah.
And and he just thought it'd be funny to eat one in front of her, and she freaked out, of course. But then his birthday's coming up, and she promised him that she would do anything for his birthday.
Oh God.
And so out of everything he could have said, he asked her to try one of the crickets. And so she did, and I got it on film today. She actually ate one of the crickets, and it was hilarious watching her reaction. She took it better than I think I would, though.
Well, got fair play to her. I mean, I don't think I could go as far because I've seen. I mean, there's friends of mine that have eaten like scorpions and tarantulas. I think tarantula I would really struggle with.
They have dried tarantulas, and that was the next thing that they talked about getting.
I don't know if I can do that one.
Anything that's like kind of gooey or squishy, I'm out. I'll eat dry shit all day long. Dry cricket. I mean, because it's quite popular now to have cricket flour. So you use it as like a replacement for like normal flour. It just tastes like you've got ground up bugs in your bread. It's just, but the protein level's like through the roof. It's like 3 times the protein level of like chicken and stuff. So.
Oh yeah. Wow.
It definitely has its
protein for the day.
Propane.
I
Yeah,
Well, the
got
US
propane.
Each one of these has got. Oh, this is serving size is 1, and it's got just over a half a gram of protein.
Well, they
Yes.
also put whey in it. It said as one of the ingredients was whey.
Yeah. I mean, they do. You do eat bugs already. I mean, if anyone eats apples, you are eating bug larvae because they use it to shine the
Ugh.
apple skin up. So
There's a
you're
leg loose in the box at the bottom, and it's gross.
Wow.
this, if you've ever eaten a doner kebab in England, then you will fear no insect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, doner kebab is literally everything, all the meat they can't get from a sheep normally, they just boil it in a vat and scrape it off. So it's like
Oh
hips,
wow.
lips, and eyebrows essentially. It's delicious, but if you just don't think about where it came from.
Yeah. Well, I see Taylor's in the chat, which I'm hoping that also means Nick is probably lurking somewhere.
I
And if Nick's lurking, I wanted Nick to be there because we recently, well, not recently, a couple episodes ago, we talked about legalizing marijuana, and he talked about his experience with edibles and how he had an existential breakdown. Oh, Nick is not. Well, tell Nick to watch this because it's going to be hilarious. So he had his existential breakdown. I went to Colorado last weekend for a bachelor party, for my friend's bachelor party, and we went to Denver, Colorado, and the first thing we did was we went to a dispensary, and we're like, let's fucking do this, right? Let's get some edibles, let's get, some joints, we're gonna have a fun time. We go to the dispensary, we get our edibles. I got chocolates, which were 10 milligrams each, and they're like little chocolates, have 10 milligrams of THC. And we went to the Airbnb, and as soon as we hit the Airbnb, we're all like, let's fucking do it. Let's drop a bunch of these chocolates and get going. And so the groom, he took 5, which was 50. The best man took 6, which was 60, and then the rest of us, including myself, took 4, which is 40. And right off the bat, we realized that it's not like nothing's not happening right away, so we decided to go get some dinner. Half of us went and got Chinese, half of us got pizza. I was the one who stayed home and waited for the pizza. And as soon as the pizza came, about 2 slices deep, it started hitting all of us. And we all started laughing. We're laughing at each other for laughing. We're laughing at each other for saying stupid shit. It was great. It was hilarious. And then something happened where I decided I'm going to get up and walk across the Airbnb into the kitchen to get a Nutter Butter, which is a snack, like a little cookie. And I went, got it. I took a bite out of it, and as I'm chewing it, in my head, I'm saying, "Wouldn't it suck if you got that phobia where peanut butter sticks to the roof of your mouth?" And then I was like, "Oh, guess what, asshole? You have that." And so I'm freaking out. There's Nutter Butter like stuck all over my mouth. I'm like, I'm gonna die. I got to get this out of my mouth. So I spit it out into the kitchen sink. And I walk to the table, and I see there's a water bottle on the table. It's unopened. And I'm walking to it. I'm like, oh, good. I'll just have a drink of that. And then I'm like, wait, that's not my water bottle. Somebody's going to yell at me for stealing their water bottle. So I then get paranoid that everyone's going to yell at me for stealing a water bottle. So I yell in like an angry tone, I'm taking this water bottle. And everyone looked at me like I was a madman, but I still did it anyways. So then I took a drink, and as I'm drinking it, I'm going, wouldn't it suck if you drowned from this water bottle? Oh, guess what, asshole? You're going to drown from this water bottle. So then I freaked out, and I basically like got rid of the water bottle. And now I'm pacing back and forth in the kitchen going, dude, you're the paranoid one. Everyone else is having a good time. You're the paranoid guy who's freaking the fuck out. And so then that's when I decide if I'm going to survive tonight, the only way to survive tonight is to tell everyone I'm freaking out. So I tell everyone I'm freaking out. They're all like, dude, just chill out. Like, sit down, have some water. I'm like, I can't have water. I'm going to drown. I'm going to drown in that water bottle. They're like, dude, just sit down. Just quit pacing, sit down. So I sit down. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, there's something in your mouth. What is in your mouth? Oh, that's your tongue. Dude, you're going to bite that. Or you're going to swallow it. We need to do something about this. So I'm freaking out and I'm telling everyone, I'm like, guys, I'm going to bite or swallow my tongue and I don't know what to do. And they're like, just don't do it. Just don't bite your tongue. And I'm like, I don't know if I can't not do it, guys. I'm freaking the fuck. So then there's a part of the night where I'm just sitting there and I'm like suspending my tongue in like midair in my mouth, like, because I'm afraid I'm going to swallow it because it keeps sticking to the roof of my mouth.
Are you sure this was an edible?
Yeah, it was an edible. At least I think it was an edible. We got it from a dispensary.
It was edible something by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and so so then like the rest of the night I'm freaking out. I'm thinking I'm gonna bite my tongue or swallow it. My heartbeat's beating out of my chest. I'm telling them like, guys, my heart's elevated. Feels like it's beating out my chest. I'm having a hard time breathing. I think I'm gonna pass out. Guys, I think you need to call somebody. They're like, yeah, we'll call somebody. And then I pass out and I come back. I'm like, whoa, I was suspended in time, guys. They're like, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a great way to describe it. And then I was like, did you guys call somebody? And they're like, yeah, we called Greg's girlfriend who's a nurse. I'm like, inside my head, I'm like, I really want to just like fucking chew these guys out. Like, at them, like, I'm dying and you're just going to give me the, oh, my girlfriend's a nurse routine.
She'll help.
But then I'm like, that's not going to make anything better. We might as well just fucking just go along with it. So they basically kept telling me, ride the wave, everything will be fine. I puked several times and then I passed out on the floor.
Hey, congratulations.
And I ruined the bachelor party for the rest of the fucking week. So the next morning I was like, I'm not touching that shit again. I'm done with weed forever. I don't give a fuck. I'll drink. I don't care. I'll drink alcohol, but I'm not touching weed again.
I remember getting so. I mean, there's two that I remember the most. One was a really short one. Was that I remember smoking so much that I got really hungry at one point. I was like, I'm gonna go and make myself a ham sandwich. So I walked off to the kitchen. I had two legs at this point, so it was a lot easier. So it was. I'm stood there in my underwear, like in the fridge, taking stuff out, making this like amazing sandwich. And then all I remember is I took a bite. And then the next thing I know, I'm being woken up because apparently I took a bite of this sandwich and then I passed out on the floor. So it looks like there's just me with this sandwich with a bite mark out of it, and me like a white chalk lines being drawn around my body just on the floor. Second one, which was a little bit worse, where it wasn't just weed, it was some other stuff in there as well. But what happens is when you get a group of people together, when someone has a certain experience, the others pick up on it. And you're only as good as your worst trippy, we'll call them. And we decided to go out. So we have things in the UK called chip shops. So you basically go there, you get fish and chips and whatever else. So we decided against our better judgment to go out and get fish and chips. And we went into this fish and chip shop and it was packed. It was like a Friday night, the queue going out the door. And my friend went, oh, isn't that the devil over there? And we all kind of looked, and obviously we all instantly saw the devil. So there's this long line of people, and the devil's just sat there, red, everything, horns, holding a trident, like and he looked more like Hellboy. But we're all staring. So there's this massive queue, and then there's these four idiots stood on the opposite side of the chip shop, refusing point blank to move because they think the devil's going to fuck them up. And we were in there apparently for like 20 minutes before the guy like really calmly just asked us to leave. So we left like traumatized and without chips. So we were pretty pissed. But those are my main kind of drug stories.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. Obviously, I took too much, like Taylor's saying. But like for me, it just like opened like the crazy door and the floodgates just went. Like,
well, the thing is, when
all my crazy.
When you ingest cannabis, you don't process it normally. You process it through your liver, So it's 4 times as psychoactive as generally smoking it. So it's not surprising that you tripped balls and then threw up everywhere, because it's a common thing.
Yeah.
It's 11 hydroxy metabolite is the exact thing that it produces when you actually process it through your liver. This is what happens when you watch a lot of weed programs. You start to learn shit like useless information. Like, what the fuck's 11 hydroxy metabolite? I don't know. It's some stuff that happens when you eat weed. I don't know. All right.
Yeah. So that was my weekend. Just wanted to share that with you guys.
Thank you for sharing. That was amazing.
A hilarious story about how crazy I am.
I feel like it's not quite as bad as Nick's trip, because like he was questioning reality at that point.
I think it's just as bad. Like his is obviously like a whole, like it's another genre of a bad trip.
Yeah.
But like I think it's just the same, because I've convinced myself that I'm a lunatic and that I have every phobia within like seconds. There wasn't like a conversation in my head like, no, we don't have that. Quit being ridiculous. It was like, wouldn't that suck if we had that? Guess what? We have it now. And then it was terrible. So I mean, obviously it's kind of like, you know, there's like horror movies and then there's like thriller movies. Mine was a thriller. Maybe it was a horror. I don't know. But...
That's just a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Nick's was like A Clockwork Orange. Mine was like Saving Jessica Marshall or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
50.
Yeah. So that was my weekend. I just wanted to tell you guys. We're going to talk about Article 13, which passed. Did that pass Wednesday?
Yes, passed on Wednesday, yes. And yeah, we all kind of cried a little bit and died a little inside, and now the fight begins. So we're all kind of, the forums have been lit ablaze with people trying to work out. It's like when you get like a group of people together and everyone's trying to think of these weird and wonderful plans of how to circumvent what the fuck's going to go on. Because I know we can tunnel to Switzerland. It's like, okay, working for a little while, but yeah, it was voted for officially. It was very surprising that it actually got through, because so within the EU, just to give you a really brief backstory, there's 27 countries that make up the EU. Well, there's the European Union, should I say. Europe as a whole has a lot more countries, but the member states of the European Union, which we are soon to become not a part of, are 27. So essentially what happened was they lobbied this for a while, and it kept getting batted down. But the music and movie industry took a leaf out of the Americans' book, and they decided to lobby the piss out of every grease weasel MP on the European Council, because you have like the local legislator, which is like our cabinet and our government, and then you have the European government. So you have MPs that you stand for them, and you have MPs that stand for the country. So the European grease weasels had all been promised X, Y, and Z. I think Taylor Swift's going to go and do a tour around parts of Europe as part of this, and essentially they voted it through, much to almost every country's shock and horror. So yeah, it was a really bad thing, because the implications of it and this is the thing, what a lot of people I've seen a lot of people have been like, well, you know, I don't live in Europe, but it's going to affect you guys just as much as it's going to affect us. It's bad news for everybody. For us, it means that essentially a brick wall is going to go up against people that create content, whether it be on YouTube, Twitch, even forums. So if you go on for things like, I mean, I don't frequent things like this, but things like 4chan, Reddit, anything with a subscriber base larger than 5 million is going to be affected by this. Links are going to be going to be a part of this as well. So we'll get into parts of it, but yeah, it's a bad thing, bad thing.
So for content creators in the UK,
yeah,
that basically means they can't recycle, or they just can't create anything at all.
So basically what it means is, unless you can prove either ownership and or express permission via the person who owns the content, and that can be any, and this is where the red tape really begins, because ironically showing you the EU directive of Article 13 would be contravening the directive of Article 13, because we do not have express permission from the people that wrote the document. There lies the problem in itself. Everything from music, visuals, graphics, motion, anything at all There is no such thing as fair use anymore. There really isn't. So it basically means that unless you have that, the vendor or the content provider, whether it be the platform of Google or Facebook or wherever, is then liable for that. And then they have become liable for prosecution from the EU government. Now, it may have passed you guys by, but Google was fined 1.7 billion euros just a few days ago for contravening European legislation. So if people think that Europe is not going to go after this, they are going to go after this in a big way, because this is basically a revenue stream now. Whereas you have so YouTube has a big problem at the moment with copyright strikes. So what happens is people that do memes or PewDiePie or whoever, name the person, essentially what they will do is they will put up some content that will have like a couple of seconds of somebody saying something. That person then will send a strike against or a strike claim to YouTube. But when that happens, they have two options. First option is the all revenue then goes to that person. So the video stays up, but you get none of the benefit from that video, or they can actually ask for the video to be taken down. In that problem lies is that if you then go against it, so if you have that strike, that action happens against you, and then you appeal it, if you lose that appeal, you get an actual strike against your channel. Now, if you get 3 strikes against your channel with YouTube, your channel is then deleted. So it puts a lot of creators off doing that. What this has actually happened, this was the starting point for the lobbyists, the music and movie industry, because obviously memes, GIFs, and whatever else, they don't care about copyright. They've had free reign for quite some time now, because the digital realm has never counted in copyright law. There's always been that loophole because there was no internet when the copyright law legislation was written. So now this is what is bringing that all in line. And I agree with that aspect of it. I agree that the digital realm has to be controlled in some way, shape, or form. People's intellectual property has to be controlled in some way, shape, or form. But now you think it's bad now with YouTube. You imagine what it's going to be like when this happens. So what's going to happen is in 2021, where this is apparently supposed to affect everybody, really take hold, the platform's going to have a choice. Do I either implement a load of filters, hire a load of people to scribble through content, or do I put a paywall, or do I not even a paywall, a wall? Do I just cut this section of humanity off and not allow them to live stream, not allow them to create content, because the hassle of having to deal with the courts is just too much? It will happen. I don't think YouTube will do that. I really don't think they will. They will implement that. But I think people like Facebook probably will kick that into touch, because they have too many revenue streams as it is. Twitch is going to be a really big thing, which directly affects me because obviously I stream via Twitch. You guys are going to be affected because essentially, unless you can prove ownership of the content that you have, you will be filtered out from the rest of Europe. So Europe will not be able to access your content in any way, shape, or form unless they do something like a VPN. But even then, the VPN has to lie outside of the realms of the EU, because if you're a VPN country within the EU, you have to abide by those rules. But the problem is, nobody seems to know where the line in the sand is going to be drawn, and it cripples us as creators in the EU to get our content out there. Because primarily, most of the people that enjoy my content are from America. I do have people that watch me and stuff within Europe, but because of the way my times and stuff like that, I primarily cater for that, and they tend to like my voice, so there's always that added bonus. But the same with you guys. I mean, people don't realize how massive a chunk of land and people Europe actually is. And if you looked at your analytics, you would see just from where you actually get views from. So it's going to be really, really, really tough for everybody involved, just as much for you guys as it is us. But obviously, it's going to affect us monetarily probably far more than it will affect you guys. But yeah, it sucks.
Well, and I think ultimately the most difficult part of it is the question of, well, how do I prove what's my original content, and how far are they going to go with that? I mean, are they going to say that the idea of something is not allowed anymore, and then we're limited to you can't share any ideas anymore?
Yeah.
Is a premise considered something that is controllable by Article 13? Is a style controlled by Article 13? This is the thing. We do not know. And there are going to be bad actors. There are going to be. They have it now. YouTube has these disgusting companies that will approach creators and say, hey, I can make you money. All I'm going to do is I'm going to scour the internet. And anytime I find anyone that's using your content, I'm going to hit them up with a strike. I'll get a cutback. You'll get a cutback. Everyone's happy. Happens all the time. That's going to then become everywhere, because that's the thing. Everyone's thinking about YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever else. Everything is affected. Everything that is domain related on YouTube, on the internet, is affected by this. Like you're saying, forums, help desks, things like Discord, Skype, even Google Hangouts, any digital platform where you have the possibility of doing something, there lies the issue. And here's the thing. I'm wearing a t-shirt about Labyrinth, so I have David Bowie on there. Do I have likeness rights for that? Can I wear that t-shirt? Will I have to wear only monotone colors? If I'm live streaming and I'm walking past a shop and they're playing a song, does that then affect me? It does. If I quote a movie, am I affected then? And if you look at the law as it stands, yes, but we just simply don't know where they're going to lie down on this. It's madness. I mean, imagine if Trump came out tomorrow and said this to America. Do you imagine the shitstorm? They'd be tearing down the walls of the White House before he'd even finished the speech. If that was something, because you guys take liberty and freedom of speech way more seriously than we do. We just have it as a given because no one really gives a shit about it. But you guys treat that as that's the cornerstone of your existence. And that's one of the things I really admire about America and love about America. And I wish that we gave more of a shit about it, because this is the sort of shit that happens. This gets snuck in. There's even the same group of laws, because it wasn't just Article 13. There was another law. You'll love this if you drive a car. So in 2021, every single car, no matter how old it is, has to be fitted with a black box recorder. Every single car will be fitted with a limiter. So if you're on a road that the speed limit is 20 miles an hour, guess how fast you can't go? 21 miles an hour. Because it has a limiter that will limit the engine speed of that car depending on what road you have. Imagine if they did that in America. They said, hey, you can't drive any faster than the permitted speed limit. That's going to be law.
Their shit.
Yeah.
And that's law. That is going to be law. That also passed at the exact same time. Why? Because of the lobby groups. And this is the thing. We've had this infection of people that are trying to get money from different sources, and as per usual, the layman has to bear the brunt of that. But it makes no sense. It makes no sense to anybody. I've not met one person that's actually for this. So it covers 751 million people essentially, which is the population of Europe. And we're so reliant. I mean, you think of France, Germany, Spain, UK, those huge markets, in the top 10 wealthiest countries in the entire world, and yet we won't be able to monetize content. And this is the thing that we're asking as well. Well, will big news corporations like the BBC, the Guardian, will they be able to report stuff online? Or will they be given a pass? I'm sure they will be. I'm sure they'll grease palms somewhere else. But I have a theory about this. It's a weird one, but essentially, in the UK, and it's been like this for 12, 13 years. If you want to play music in any way, shape, or form, whether it's radio in a factory or an office, whether it's the radio in a cafe or a restaurant, if it's people performing live in your venue, you have to have a license. You have to pay for this license. And depending on what sort of venue you are, or what sort of business you are, that is, and it's something you have to pay every single year, and it can cost thousands of pounds. I actually think this will become a thing in Europe. I think there will be a thing where if you want to be able to, and the reason why it's set up is so that they can pay royalties to the artists that you use. It's a weird setup. I actually think they could set that up in Europe, that if you are a content creator, if you want to do something, you then have to then buy a license, which then allows you to stream the content that you want to stream, because you're then giving money that then can be distributed to the revenue sources that it goes out to. I honestly do think that will become a thing. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm probably not going to be, to be honest with you. The more and more I read into this, the more and more it just highlights that this is being done to set up something else. This isn't being done to better things. This is being done so that we can now introduce something new and exciting to rip you off with. But I don't know.
So I think like this, you think either people are going to make copywriting easier and a little bit more affordable, so people can make content and put it out there? Or...
I mean, I think what it will do is it will be structured. So it'll be like if you're like a huge creator. So take PewDiePie, for instance. PewDiePie is one of the biggest revenue streams of PewDiePie on YouTube is meme review. So he basically sits there and reviews memes. Yeah. Well, that's not going to be a thing. However, there is a hidden rule that actually kind of gives memes and GIFs a break, which is a bit weird because memes was one of the main reasons why this was brought up in the first place. But it could be like, well, because you're a creator, because you have 80 odd million people, because you have this, that, and the other, you have to pay this tier to be able to bypass this. Because you are a creator that has only 1,000 viewers or 1,000 subscribers or whatever, you only have to pay this much. It's the same as we have with the broadcasting rights, like I said, from radio stations to I mean, imagine you play the radio in a call center, you have to pay £800 or $1,000 a year for the permission, and they can come up and fine you 10 grand if they show up and say, show me a license for playing the radio. So it's fucking ridiculous. But
maybe put the microphone. Do you think that people, I don't know, like I really want to say that people are just going to be like, this is ridiculous, we're just going to do what we want or whatever, but I mean, you're going to get fined like 10,000.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, the thing is, it's going to be a weird thing because essentially what they're doing, they have said that they're going to leave it up to each country to police their own shit, essentially. So the UK will be relied upon to do its own policing of this. So it could be, I mean, I am staunch. I'm left as left can be, and I'm pro-remaining in Europe. But this is the first thing that's happened that I've gone, fuck this. I hate it. It's made me really have a real disdain for the European process. But but this is the ironic thing. Even if we leave, so if the UK leaves with no deal whatsoever, so that means that all ties are severed with Europe, we still would have to comply with this legislation because we'd still be affected by it. But yeah, I totally. I don't know. It's such a massive amount of information that it's going to take months and months and months for people to really digest this and start coming up with things. I mean, literally every country is against this. On a grassroots level, every single country without fail. Switzerland is the example because Switzerland is an EU member state, but everything that goes through has to be voted for by the people in that country. It's the only country that has this ruling in that. And because of that, they're going to vote it down. So we can bypass it a little bit by having a VPN, because this is the thing that is going to be the knock-on effects. A VPN usage is going to go through the roof. It's going to, Europe, it's going to become almost like a vital thing that you have to have. But because of that, you're then going to have a saturation of the market, and I think prices will actually go up because who does not use the internet? Who even if you say that you don't, okay, I'm not in social media, you still consume content. You still every cable service and TV service that we have in the UK uses some sort of internet structure to beam or receive. So you have to have engagement with that, and VPNs are going to take advantage of that. I would. I mean, personally, I would. It's a massive revenue opportunity for them. But unless the people really rise up against this, because I mean, this went through, like we said the other day, there was no news coverage of this in the UK whatsoever. Not one news vendor was talking about this. Not one, zero. And I was checking BBC, I was checking Sky, I was checking Guardian, checking Reuters. No one gave a shit. They had like a little editorial piece if you went on their website, but no one was actually talking to it on camera. There was no distribution of this saying, "Oh, it's gone through." It's only the last, like today, that people have gone, "Oh yeah, by the way, you're all fucked. Enjoy. Happy 2021, everybody." So,
I feel like this could be enough. Well, how to say it? Enough. This could be enough to start a revolution.
I mean, it could. I mean, it could do. But I mean, you think of net neutrality in the States. I mean, unfortunately, that war has been lost essentially because people threw billions of dollars at it because they saw what the money would earn for that. So that's kind of fucked up. But this is net neutrality on steroids. This is like a different. This is fundamentally a game changer for the world, because who's to say that America wouldn't follow suit later down the line? I don't think they dared go as far as the Europe has, but I guarantee you they would try. Because I mean, essentially, net neutrality has given that power of sorts to the big, whether it be Verizon or whoever your ISPs are. They definitely have the ability to filter and limit and throttle content. So who's to say they don't introduce something similar? But yeah, it could definitely spark a lot of protest. I mean, French. If you've ever seen the French will protest anything. It's almost like a national event. They love that shit. Yeah. I remember growing up as a kid and there was the price of lamb went up by something like 20 cents to the pound. And the French were burning cars on the Champs-Élysées. Like they love that shit. It's a sport to them, and they're very good at it as well. And you've got other countries that will follow suit as well. And us with Brexit and all that sort of stuff, we've become very adept at kicking off about certain things. So it's definitely when it kicks in, they'll definitely, because the thing is, most people are dumb, so they'll just go, "Huh? Why can't I watch Logan Paul anymore?" And then they'll start throwing things and going mental then. But
well, something that I'm a little surprised that there's not more outrage over is the shooting that happened in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's funny how everyone seems to have gone, "Oh yeah, moving on." Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it?
We just got like a brief story.
Like we got the headline that it happened, but we didn't really get a whole lot of.
Yeah, we only got the one shooter. Isn't there multiple shooters or multiple?
No. So essentially, it was one guy, but the news that came out, and it's only just come out today. It looks like, and this has been suppressed to high heaven. He apparently had financial ties to a far right group in Europe. Hang on, I'll find the actual name of them because it is quite relevant. New Zealand shooter ties.
Didn't he say, like, before he did it, he said like subscribe to PewDiePie or something, right?
Yeah, he live streamed it. He live streamed it across many platforms, and this is one of the things that kind of raised alarm bells to a lot of people. And it's, unfortunately, my gut, as big and lovely as it is very rarely wrong when it comes to horrible things like this. And I messaged my mother and a couple of other people and said, I hope to God my gut's wrong, because this feels so well organized and orchestrated on a digital level. So this was like almost like a PR campaign shooting. This wasn't like your run of the mill kind of crazy nut job. This was organized from the top down, from the slogans and writings he had on his rifles and his shotguns, to him being able to live stream it across Instagram and Twitch, and then how quickly people were saving it, seeding it on the P2P sharing sites, and then reposting it. I mean, they said they took down like 170,000 repeat streams of this on YouTube. It just boggles the mind that people would want to share this vile depravity. But yeah, the last thing he said before he went into the first mosque was he goes, "Remember, lads, subscribe to PewDiePie." And then he popped, and then he started shooting. But he was So basically, it came out today that this guy had financial links with a far right group called Generation Identity, which has ties within Austria and a few other places. But Generation Identity is an interesting group because not only are they absolute scum of the earth, but they also are very adept at digital media. Who'd have thought it, eh? This guy who had all this knowledge of how to do certain things and various things, and now it came out that he actually travelled quite extensively throughout Europe, may have received training. Now, what you guys all know this, having a plethora of shootings over in your wonderful country. Whenever the guy's white or the word far right is mentioned, it's usually followed up by people that are on the right by words like lone wolf, crazy person. He must have been. He was acting on his own. Now is not the time to talk about these things. We should let the investigation follow its path. And yet, when the person is brown or they have Islam is part of their worldview, then obviously it is the entirety of Islam that is fault. We already know what we need to know. He is guilty, and his whole thing is guilty. We tend to draw conclusions when it comes from a certain part of the world. But the problem with this is, I don't know if you heard this, but on the day it happened, we had over 100 attacks against Muslims in the UK. We had guys in my hometown that took sledgehammers to mosques and were breaking through windows. They tried to run people over. In actual fact, today we had 2 people killed outside of a mosque. They were stabbed to death, literally a couple of hours ago in London. Hate crimes in the UK against and it seemed to happen right then. So this across the board seems to be a orchestrated attack. It fits every definition possible that this was orchestrated. And what my original point is that it's funny how no one is talking about this. That this is 100% not a lone nut wolf. This is not him. This was orchestrated. He knew what he was doing. It was controlled and managed by other people. I personally, and I wouldn't advise anyone to do this, but I enjoy looking at every aspect of what happens. So when things like this happen, I look at each extreme. So I went to, I won't say the name of the website, but probably the most far right, openly available website you can go to for this sort of thing, and they were celebrating it like it was a victory. They were actually celebrating it, and they were giving instructions to everybody to make sure you save that video, share it with your friends, show everyone that it's now is the time to start rising up. And then boom, hate crime after hate crime after hate crime after hate crime. Not in Germany, in Spain, in France. It's lit a fuse and set a chain of events that is terrifying, to be quite honest with you. It really is, because it's amazing how much violence there is that doesn't get covered. We get oversaturated with things about shootings and this, that, and the other in the States, and levels of violence, and here in the UK with knife crime. And yet when you see real orchestrated shit, it's like crickets. No one wants to talk about it because they don't want to face the uncomfortable truth that we as consumers and they as projectors, the news, mainstream media, I hate using mainstream media because that stupid orange goblin that you guys have put in president tends to use it so much. Yeah. Mainstream media has made this a sport. This has now become the how famous can I be game. If I kill enough people and my name is said enough. And the thing is, I actually think, as horribly and as much as I hate saying this because I am a freedom of speech absolutist, but I think it should be law that you do not speak their name on camera. You do not mention them on camera. You just say some sick fuck killed a load of people and here are their names. These are the people that died. Here they are. They are human. They're not just a statistic. They're not just people in hijabs. They're not just people that went for prayer. They're human beings that were slaughtered at the hands of some psychopath who we will never mention, and we will bury his name as much as we love burying people that like doing stuff with kids that happen to be celebrities, because we like doing that. We're fine suppressing that sort of shit. But yeah, but it really bummed me out. That in particular really made me sad. Really made me sad.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing that I find, I guess out of anything, I don't want to say that there's any good that comes out of it, because there's not. But I think that if anything, at least New Zealand is making an example by, they just passed some gun reform laws.
Yep.
In response to this,
Yeah.
I wish that the United States would take a page out of that book. You know, if we
Didn't
continue
Australia
to have
follow too?
Australia did too.
Australia
I
already
believe.
had that. Australia had a shooting court in Port Arthur in 1994, I want to say.
I think you're right.
And literally 2 weeks later, they passed gun legislation. We had the same here in Dunblane. We had a schoolmaster that killed 17 children. A month later, we passed one of the toughest. I mean, and this is the thing. Here's the kicker. So as much as we like to think in the UK that we're controlled with our firearms, I actually watched a documentary not too long ago that scared the absolute shit out of me. So it was basically a guy who flew over to the States and he bought an antique firearm which you can buy without a license, without any ID at a gun show. It's not even like I mean, you can buy AR-15s and all sorts of things at gun shows, but this was an antique. So this was a gun that hadn't been decommissioned, hadn't been drilled, hadn't had the firing pin taken out of it, because they no longer officially made the ammunition for it. So they're usually Russian made, and they have weird calibers. So you can go over, an Englishman can get on a plane, go to America, go to a gun show, buy a gun. I think it's about $2,000 roughly. Put it in a lockbox, take it to the plane, put it on the plane, come back to good old England where we have really strict gun laws. You're not supposed to carry a firearm or anything less. Show the lockbox to the guy there. They check it and they go, "Yep, cool, decommissioned. It's an antique, so we don't care." Off you go. You go on Google. You type in Russian caliber so and so. You can buy the blast caps, the shell casings. You get the all you need is a projectile and black powder, and you have yourself a gun. And you are legally allowed to not only carry it, but have it hanging up in your wall or anything else. And that's a loophole that people take advantage of all the time. All the time.
There's actually there's footage of like people going to gun shows here in America, and they go, I don't have a license, I don't have a permit, but I want to buy this gun. And the seller says, "Yeah, you don't look like a criminal. Yeah, I can. $200 is good."
Yeah.
And then like shortly after they get their gun, they go and do a crime with their gun.
Yeah. There's definitely loopholes that people take advantage of here in the States, for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, the legislation. I mean, like I said, we've had really strict gun laws in our country for a long time, and it doesn't stop gun violence. No, by any way, shape, or means. In actual fact, gun violence has gone quite bad. I mean, and I say by bad as in we have like tens of shootings a year rather than thousands of shootings that you guys have or other places. But yeah, New Zealand was pretty open with they're actually a very open country with their gun laws until this happened, and they've got a really good prime minister over there, and she was like, "Fuck this shit, we're gonna sort it out." I mean, did you guys hear about the senator in New Zealand the day of the shooting that posted a statement on senator headed note paper that says, "Yeah, this is a terrible thing, but they brought it on themselves, they shouldn't be here." And this was the day of this, I think it was 2 hours after the shooting happened, after 50 people were mowed down by this scumbag. A member of parliament actually stood up and was like, "Yeah, it's horrible, but they shouldn't be here." And it's just like, and thankfully some little teenager the next day slapped an egg in his head, which is hysterical. But they don't mince Australia and New Zealand are fantastic places. They don't mince their fucking words at all. So they definitely told them what needed to hear. So
Julie's gonna step out real quick. She's gotta answer the door.
No worries.
But is there a video of of the senator getting egged in the face?
Oh yeah. Hang on with there. New Zealand. I can't remember his name. The guy's at New Zealand's senator. Yeah, he's called Jacinda Ardern. Oh, hang on, that's the Prime Minister. What the fuck? What's this guy's name? That prick. Oh, yeah. Australian senator gets egged in protest after controversial view. It's all over the place. If you look at, he's called Senator Anning. Hang on, what is his name? I'll find it somewhere. Person's rebuke. Yeah. Fraser Anning, the guy's name is. So if you look up Fraser Anning, you'll find the video of it straight away.
Okay.
But he said, but here's what he said. So in a statement shared by an Australian journalist on Twitter, the Queensland senator also wrote, as always, left-wing politicians and the media will rush to claim that the causes of today's shootings lie with gun laws of those who hold nationalist views. The real cause of the bloodshed on New Zealand streets today is the immigration program, which allowed Muslim fanatics to migrate to New Zealand in the first place. That's what this guy said. So if you look it up, it'll show the little kid, and he's a young lad as well. And the senator punches him in the face afterwards, and he takes it. But there's a whole video of just after. So that was the news cameras. They actually his entourage, this senator's entourage, video them choking him almost to death on the floor and laughing in his face and calling him a prick and this and the other. Just vile human beings.
Mm.
But yeah.
I'll have to go back and watch that.
Yeah,
no, we don't. America, we're just so self-centered. We get like the most minimal information about other countries, and then we move on.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you guys as a country are completely numb to gun violence. Really, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, there's not enough. I mean, ironically, for the birthplace of 24-hour news, you'd think they'd make more time to talk about it, but they just don't seem to now. It's almost like they'll only talk about the real big ones. It's a sad state of affairs.
We love our guns so much, we don't want to cast shadow on it, you know.
And I get it. I mean, I am more than happy with self-protection, but it should be a right that is earned. It should not just be, well, I'm American, therefore I am allowed to hold and carry and do whatever, and because I love freedom I can get whatever I want. Well, not whatever I want, because I know you can't get automatic weapons, and I know that there are restrictions, but in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty fucking easy. I mean, the fact of how many kids kill each other because they've found daddy's gun who didn't bother putting it in the lockbox he was supposed to, and then blows his sister's head off or shoots his mom in the back of the car, or it's just, I mean, guns is so ingrained in your guys' kind of way of life. I kind of understand why it would be so hard, but I don't get the argument of why people find it so difficult to understand that maybe there should be some restrictions on this. Maybe you should, if you are on medication, maybe you shouldn't have access to a firearm. I mean, if you look at any antidepressant box, what are the actual side effects? Is suicidal thoughts and psychotic behavior. Maybe we shouldn't give Tommy the rifle. Maybe Tommy should sit this one out while we sort out his meds.
Yeah. It's like I think we just passed another restriction about bump stocks and stuff, but I mean, it's like we're just kind of like nitpicking at like.
But that's like the bare minimum. I mean, bump stocks. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's no reason for them to exist other than to get around the loophole of not being able to possess an automatic rifle. But it's such a baby step, and even that took a while. I mean, you think the Vegas shooting was 18 months ago now, and it only just recently passed. So it's not like it. I mean, like I said, New Zealand was 2 weeks ago. They've already implemented the change. It's done, and no one's arguing with it. There's no fucking arguments at all. Everyone's like, "Yep, fair enough. We got to do it." Same with Australia. Australia had a shit ton of firearms. They all went, "Well, fair enough. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. We're going to give them up," and that was it. It was done. There's none of this kind of, you're not taking from my cold dead hands. It's just, there's none of that.
Well, and a lot of us Americans want to like use the amendments and stuff like, you know, shit that happened hundreds of years ago, or like we're afraid our government's gonna take over our streets and we need to have protection, or Britain's gonna come back and try to take us over again, shit like that, you know.
After
It's like,
Brexit, I need a new hobby. Maybe it's
Yeah.
taking America again.
So, you know, like people come up with the most ridiculous reasons why we want to keep our guns. I get the whole like, I get protection and I get
Sure.
hunting,
Mm.
but the rest of that shit I don't think we need.
If you live in a country where the wildlife can kill you, you should be allowed to carry a firearm. There's no if buts or maybes. There's no.
Yeah.
I don't see anyone fending off a bear with a tennis racket. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So,
Although
but
that would be interesting to watch.
it would be interesting to watch. I would love to see that happen. Maybe actually we could like some sort of death match. You could have like raccoon versus man with potato peeler and see how far that goes. But the problem is that here's my argument with anyone that wants to argue the toss about you can't change amendments. Well, the hint's in the name. It's an amendment. What does an amendment mean? It means a change. It means at some point we looked at it and went, hang on a minute, that needs updating. And that's what the founding fathers actually said. If you read the actual documentation, they said this is a set of rules that is supposed to grow with you. It's not supposed to lay ingrained with you for the rest of fucking existence. Otherwise, slavery, slavery is still a thing in some parts, but slavery overall, we can all agree, is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was written out of the Constitution, and it was written out of your laws. It's not hard, but it's just certain things where people are like, nope, can't touch it, can't have it, can't do it. It's ironic. After every mass shooting, gun sales go through the roof. Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
You're the only country that does this. You really are. If you can imagine if suddenly Mars bars tomorrow became like lethal, and then the sale of Mars bars shot through the roof, it wouldn't make sense, would it? Everyone would be going, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why Mars bars are flying off the shelves. They kill people.
Yeah.
I
think it's because people are afraid that, you know, that we might do an Australian, like, or a New Zealand, where it's like, oh no, there's school shooting, where they're going to take guns off the shelves. Better buy it up now.
Well, look at Japan. Japan has it right because you can own a firearm over there, but you have to earn that shit. You have to renew your license every year. You have to be allowed to have checks at any time. You have to have it very stringently locked in very certain ways. And if you breach any of those rules, guess what? Your right to own a firearm is taken away, like that.
Yeah. See, here in America, all you have to do is go to your sheriff's office and fill out a form. You get a permit. Takes like 5 minutes out of your day.
But it's the disparities of it. I mean, look at the Black Panthers. So the Black Panthers were mainly a rising, and they openly carried because they were in a state that allowed open carry. And then all of a sudden, the open carry was removed because they didn't want black people walking around with rifles like the white guys did. You can't really argue the toss when you nitpick those rulings. It's like, well, you should be allowed to open carry apart from places where other people from other ethnicities might do the same thing. We can't allow that shit. I only feel safe when the white yahoo's walking around with the AR-15 while I'm picking up shopping from Walmart.
Yeah.
I don't want the black guy doing it or the Asian guy doing it. It just doesn't. I almost think like America is like the Truman Show, that we're all kind of watching this big melodrama and nowhere. This is what I mean. I watched a documentary on Netflix about flat Earth theory, and it was so good. It was so good.
Oh, yeah.
They do actually believe that it's like the Truman Show. We are all in this like soundstage, and it's just one big experiment. I was just kind of like, please God, but I would really suggest. I think it's called Above the Curve or something like that. It's not been out long, but it's genius. It's a genius documentary. It really is brilliant. If you believe it or don't believe it, it's a good thing. But
I saw that Logan Paul started his own flat
I
Earth documentary.
I haven't seen that yet. I do because Shane Dawson obviously has got so much traction with his stuff. I think Logan Paul's just going, I could do this shit. He just chose to flat Earth theory.
That was one of the things that H3 pointed out, that Logan Paul is just kind of ripping off of Shane Dawson.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that happened with Ninja. When Ninja blew up on Twitch, Logan and Jake Paul and a load of other Viners slash YouTubers suddenly started live streaming Fortnite. And then when they realised that they all sucked at it, they all went, oh, well, this is a bit, oh, you actually have to have talent. Oh, shit. Oh, we can't, it's rubbish. Let me just write another diss track and we'll forget this ever happened. Yeah. But apparently he got really into it. I need to watch that documentary because I'm really intrigued about that, actually. But yeah, apparently Logan really got into Flat Earth, which doesn't surprise me. I mean,
it looked a little fake to me. Like there's a love interest and like.
Oh really?
Yeah.
What, does he fall for like a flat earther? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it was a girl who's a flat earther, and he has these like existential problems where he's like, do I start believing in flat Earth so I can bang this chick or?
Oh, what a maverick! What a maverick!
Go if you haven't seen H383's review on it.
I haven't. I don't know why I don't watch them anymore. I've kind of fallen out. I've fallen out of favor with a lot of YouTube recently, to be honest. Yeah, like Philip DeFranco and a load of other things. Yeah. I think I've reached a point of I consume so much news. I've developed like a phobia of it at the moment. I'm just like, oh, I really don't want to hear about this again.
Yeah,
it's like the whole Michael Jackson thing when the Behind Neverland happened, that came out. I was just like, whoa. I mean, that documentary was. I mean, it's weird how unequivocal people are to go, nope, there's no way he did that. I mean, yeah, he slept in the bed with children, but nope, there's no way he did it. No way on Earth.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
Come on, guys. I mean, I don't know if you ever watched the police footage of when they go through his house, and they search for his house, and his house is full. I mean, he was a hoarder, but a hoarder that had millions upon millions of dollars. Yeah, so they go room by room by room by room. There's all these ornate figures of children and all this weird shit, but everything's worth thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. All these figurines and this, that, and the other. Jewelry's left scattered far and wide, watches and all sorts. And they go into his bedroom and they find a safe. So they crack the safe, and they find like this dusty old camcorder in it. So what of all this house with all these trinkets, why are you keeping a dusty ass camcorder in a safe?
Yeah.
And it wasn't the only one they found, and because that's not the only documentary. There's another documentary that's supposed to be coming out about him, but that goes into more of the police investigation about him. Because there's all sorts of rumors and conspiracy theories about it. It's just like, do I want it to not be true? Yeah, but come on, there's so much there that you cannot tell me. I mean, could you imagine if you've got kids, you're a dad.
Yeah.
You get a phone call and you answer the phone. You're like, hello, and he goes, yeah, hey, it's Justin Bieber. I'm like, oh, okay, hello, Justin Bieber. And it's like, I want to hang out with your son. Do you mind bringing him to my multi-million-dollar mansion and leaving him there for a week? But yeah, sure, Justin Bieber. I mean, where's he going to sleep? Oh, in my bed. Well, seems legit. You're a celebrity. I'll do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. All you would hear is Fox News would be like, "There's reports that Justin Bieber has been hung, drawn, and quartered, and his head has been stuck on a pole outside of Jay Musty Goose's house." We now go live to Tommy outside of the residence. It would be literally like that. There's no way on earth you would ever let something like that happen. No way on earth. And yet people did. It just boggles my brain how celebrity can get around shit like that.
Yeah, if you have enough fame and a little bit of power, goes a long way. I think a lot of the parents knew that it might have gone happen, but they're like, my kid's gonna get famous though.
Well, there was the one family, because there was oh god, I forget because there was one guy that was actually quite famous. He was a dance called what they call it, a choreographer. He did it like NSYNC, Britney Spears and stuff. And I used to watch
the Australian boy.
Yeah. But if you spoke to his mom, and his mom was like, he wanted us to leave him there for a week, and we thought, yeah, that sounds all right. So just left him. And then they were like, we went to the hotel, but then we found out that our room was really far away from his.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, alarm bells, anybody? Nobody thought, oh, that's a bit strange. My 7-year-old boy is hanging out with this 30-year-old dude. And he keeps wanting to sleep over his house and play like Peter Pan and all this bullshit. Like, no, come on.
The funny part was they're like, well, my room's like all the way across the floor of the hotel, but then the next one they're like, but then we were like on a whole different floor
Yeah.
of his suite, and I'm like, that's like the same bell, but it's got louder. Like, shouldn't you fucking like wait a minute?
I remember I was chuckling because I imagined like so they're like the parents are sat down for breakfast. So they're in this like plush hotel and it's all being brought to them by like servers, and the dad suddenly goes, no, no, no. And be like, what's going on? He goes, oh, I feel like there's something wrong. They're like, no, it's okay, it's fine. And just carries on eating. Like every now and again they'll just have this like overwhelming like what the fuck's going on kind of moment. It's like, could you imagine not seeing your son for like anything more than a couple of hours? It does not compute at all. But they used to have the same with when the whole Jimmy Savile thing happened and that all came out, and the amount of people that knew 100% of what he was doing and didn't do anything because he was that much of a megastar in the UK that they just thought, well, there's no way that anyone would believe me, so they said nothing. And there was a very famous interview by one of the Sex Pistols, Johnny Rotten, or Johnny Lysden, as he's more affectionately known over here. And he's interviewed. This is like 1979, so this is not like it was like 2 years ago or anything. And he's asked about Jimmy Savile. He goes, "Oh no, can't talk about him. He does very wrong things with little boys and girls." And they scrubbed the interview. They didn't allow it to air. And he got banned from the BBC because of it. It's a really famous clip over in the UK, but they knew back then. But because he was famous and because he was a suit. I mean, I'm trying to think of someone to compare Jimmy Savile to in the US, that because he was a god, a literal god. He was like a radio presenter, and he used to be a professional wrestler as well. It's all kinds of weird shit. But it's like, imagine if like fucking, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I can't even think of anyone to compare him to. Like a really like Conan O'Brien. Say Conan O'Brien. Like someone who everyone knows, like a household name. And then all of a sudden you find out that he was like breaking into morgues and like sleeping with corpses and all that sort of. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
A little
weird. Breaking. I guess that's, I don't know. Like you just find out Conan O'Brien's breaking into morgues.
But this is the thing, and this is the thing that happened with Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile was like, he had a show called Jim Will Fix It, where basically people would write him letters saying, "I would like to do this," and he would grant them wishes. So basically, he was the child catcher. He was abusing people, and yet they were coming to him. They were writing to him. They wanted to engage with him. It's like it's like the most obvious place to be. And the most dangerous, and he even bragged about it. He had interviews where he would you could tell he was playing with the person. He would say these really inappropriate things, and then just leave it out there. He was so brazen, so brazen. If anyone hasn't seen the Louis Theroux documentary on him, go and watch it. It's incredible.
Is it on? Could it be on YouTube or?
It's on Netflix here in the UK, but I don't know if it's available over there. But yeah, if you look on YouTube, you'll find it. Jimmy Savile, Louis Theroux, and even Louis Theroux says he knew, but he just didn't say anything. He himself was complicit, and that was only like 15, 18 years ago. So.
Oh yeah. Just didn't want to be the guy who breaks up the band.
Well, there is that, I suppose, but you know, really want to be a part of that. I mean, we had the same with what's his name? Lead singer of the Lost Prophets, Ian Watkins. Who Lost Prophets were a massive band over here. They had a song called Shinobi vs. Dragon Ninja, was huge, and then it turned out that he was a horrific. I mean, he's worse than Savile if you listen to all the stuff that he actually did and done. And was still doing, even though he's in prison, he's still trying to get people to bring kids in and all, just disgusting stuff. Anyway, there's a music video they did called Fake Town of Hypocrisy. If you look at that video, if you read a synopsis of what Ian Watkins has done, and then watch that music video of him as a school teacher in a school, it has a whole like dark, chilling meaning. And he was so brazen with it, really brazen with it. And people, because he was a good looking guy and because he was famous, girls would offer their children to him, would legitimately offer their children to him, and that's how they caught him, because there was a woman that was bringing her baby to him. It was mind blown.
Yeah, it's kind of it's really something to go back and like listen to like R. Kelly and Michael Jackson songs after you watch the documentaries and the news, and you're like, oh, so that's what that's really about.
Exactly, but I mean, R. Kelly's a weird one, because I mean, we all knew about the piss tapes with him. I mean, that's almost 20 years old in itself.
Yeah,
it's amazing how many people still, and this is a real disconnect within certain communities, that they will still back him. They still think he's completely innocent. They still believe that it's the white man trying to take him down. It's just same as Bill Cosby. There are still people now that still believe, well, if these girls didn't want to get with Bill Cosby, why were they in his hotel room? Like, well, roofie cappuccinos will do that to a girl. It's not. Yeah. It's not like he asked for their consent or anything.
Well, and promise of having a celebrity career or something, and getting famous.
Well, same thing. Bill Cosby was arguably one of the best stand-up comedians your country's ever produced. He's on the top 10 list for most people that listen to comedy. And yet he's also a horrific rapist. It's just, I don't know. The world's in a topsy-turvy place at the moment. I'm not sure what to make of anything.
It's always funny how, like, as I was growing up, that's all I heard old people say is like, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, or like America's going to hell or something like that.
Truth. And now we're sat here and we're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You wonder what they were all worried about back in those days. It was something like the introduction of the computer and like self, and it's like, well, celebrities are like sleeping with everyone. Stop it, make it stop. Why are they doing this? Why are they allowed to do this? But yeah, it's gonna reach a tipping point. It really is. There's Richard Ojeda, which is like, where is he from? West Virginia. He's a West Virginian representative. Fucking awesome guy. He ran for president for like 2 weeks and then decided to give up because everyone was just terrified of him. Ex-Marine, and he goes, eventually what happens is when you take advantage of the dirt poor for long enough, the dirt poor will eat the rich, and it will happen. You're gonna get to a tipping point where everyone's just going, fuck this shit. It'll be like Bane in Dark Knight Rising, where he turns the city against itself, against the rich, and they just eat them alive. And I think we're not far from that. I really do think that. So start prepping now, folks. Get your tins of tomatoes ready and your bottled water, and get your zombie apocalypse plans in place, because you're gonna need it at some point.
Start digging out that underground shelter in your backyard, like Colin Firth did.
Just I'm sure InfoWars still has a web store. Just whatever they sell, that's the stuff. Did you see the stuff with Alex Jones getting accosted in his favorite chicken restaurant the other day?
I did not.
He got thrown. Oh, that's the thing, because he's not. He had Joe Rogan on his show. Not.
I listened to the Joe Rogan episode where he was on. I didn't hear the one.
So Alex Jones was on Joe Rogan after talking monumental amounts of shit about him. But then Joe went on InfoWars like 2 days ago and sat down with Alex Jones. It's the trip. It's on YouTube, but it's the trippiest thing. It's worth a watch. It's really bizarre, because you see Alex really. It's like because Alex accused him of being like a CIA shill and like some like a double agent, and they threatened his kid. It's like, I mean
On the Joe Rogan podcast, he was like, "You know more than you let everyone know, like lead on." So, and he's like, "No, I don't." And he's like, "Yeah, you know everything I'm talking about. You know all the conspiracies I'm talking about right now."
Is when he was saying about like they've got like colonies on Mars and stuff. I'm like, Alex, please just stop. Just for everyone's sake. I mean, I don't like you, but I don't want to see you hurt like this. Just please.
It was funny because it started off where he's like, "I'm not gonna talk about conspiracies. I'm just gonna be a normal interview," and then all of a sudden it just goes full on crazy fucking conspiracies.
You know, Joe was smoking that extra strong weed, so even if he didn't partake himself, he'd like secondhand smoke was just gonna get him. Because that's what fucked him up the first time round. He was like, he was talking about interdimensional beasts and all sorts of fucking shit. And Eddie Bravo was lapping that shit up. I love Eddie Bravo, but he should be locked up. He's got some real wacky thoughts.
Yeah.
Some wacky thoughts.
Well, I hate to be the guy of bad news, but I'm gonna have to end it.
Oh, that's okay. We'll do it again. It's
my
fine.
father-in-law's here, and he's waiting for my approval on his new van.
Oh God, go and approve the van. Go and approve.
So, where can our listeners here on YouTube and all our audio platforms find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitch, so twitch.tv/Zombiefootjay. Used to be Zombiefoot Gaming, but I didn't. I was fed up of sounding like a disabled esports team, so I decided to drop the gaming and add the J for a bit of personal touch. But you can also, I've also for a group venture, kind of started a podcast of my own now, which is on Twitch, which is called My Guys, the My Guys podcast, which we had our second episode, and it was an absolute shit show, but it was mainly because we were trying some technical stuff, and the first time we tested it was live on stream, and that never goes well. So
yeah,
it was entertainingly terrible. So, but yeah, so twitch.tv/My Guys podcast, you'll catch it on that. But otherwise, you'll probably find me in the chat on here, or just hanging out, or just go buy a musty mug. Just go do that now.
There you go.
Easily. But thank you for having me on. I've missed being around.
I love having you on. Love talking to you. Love listening to your voice. It's a great voice.
Thank you.
Speaking of voice, we need to work on our voiceover work.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that and get that set up, because especially with Article 13, even more so now. There's even more of a need for some fun stuff out there. But yeah, no, we'll definitely we'll set that up and get it rocking and rolling for sure.
Yeah. And then just a quick update. I did actually manage to send the poster to you.
Oh, awesome.
So it should be arriving in a couple of months. I don't know how long it's going to take. So
when did you actually send it out?
I sent it out last Thursday.
Because ironically enough, I missed a parcel today,
Oh,
and I don't know where it's from. So it may already be here. You don't know. I'll let you know, because I'm picking it up tomorrow. So if it is, then
I couldn't get the Pez out for some reason. Like, I had to fill out a special form because it was going international, right?
for Pez.
And then they're like, "Is this food?" And I'm like, "It's candy." And they're like, "That's gonna be like a whole nother fee of like $60." And I'm like, "Jesus Christ, $60
for Pez." Jesus.
for Pez?" So
You enjoy that Pez.
I kept the Pez.
Yeah, you keep the Pez, my friend. It's fine. I appreciate the effort anyway. But yeah, we'll definitely sit down. We'll discuss some things, and you will see it here soon. You'll hear some dulcet tones and some funny voiceover stuff for sure. But thank you again for having me on. I always love being with you guys.
Yeah, thank you too for being here. Everybody, you can follow us here on YouTube. Subscribe. We also have the Twitch channel where we upload the video too. Otherwise, we take the audio and we put it on our SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iTunes, and Stitcher. So hard to remember all of those. Anyways, check out the merch store. You can get your musty mug. Otherwise, everyone else, have a beautiful day. Zombiefootjay, you have a beautiful night. Go get some sleep.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Love you. Bye.
Thank you, buddy. That was a lot of fun. Right. That's all right, my friend. Right, I'll let you go. I'm literally about to fall over asleep. But I'll tell you what. We'll chat tomorrow about the voiceover stuff, and we'll talk through some ideas. All right, buddy. Take care. Yeah. See ya.
Wow. And he's like, "Ah!" I could have gone more, but I'm just gonna have to end it there.
That's pretty good.
I'm just gonna say something that might piss off a lot of people.
Yeah.
I feel like the pork tastes just like the chicken.